It's Thursday, August 8th, 2019, and this is your Daily Detroit. I'm Jer Stays. Sven Gustafson and Fletcher Sharpe will join me later in the show. Today, we're all around town, so let's just get to it right after this. Daily Detroit is brought to you in part by our friends at Milo.agency. Milo is a marketing agency that produces amazing experiences for audiences. They partner with their clients to drive business and create innovative content. Do cool stuff with them at Milo.agency.
Life breaks free, it expands to new territories, and it crashes through barriers painfully, maybe even dangerously, but, there it is. Life, finds a way.
Let's get started with some celebrity stories around town. 2 items. First, Jeff Goldblum apparently spent most of the last week in the city. He got himself on a Detroit Bikes bicycle, which I can co-sign are pretty great, and checked out their Detroit factory. On top of that, he was spotted at Gold Cash Gold in Corktown and did the epic bike event Slow Roll. By the way, that's a reminder from myself I need to go do the Slow Roll this year. I used to do them every week. It's a fun time. Second, there's more Wahlburg action. Up in Royal Oak, another Wahlburger location has opened to much media fanfare. It's in the new plaza near Beaumont Hospital at 13 and Woodward. So I know people can't get enough of the place, and I get it if you're a fan of the brothers. But out that way, tell me about it once you've tried Redcoat or the Emery. Jack White is up to some re-release jams. The White Stripes' self-titled debut album from 1999 is coming back out as part of the Third Man Records subscription service. It's a 20th anniversary box set, and beyond the album has a bunch of goodies, including a DVD of 2 performances from around here and session outtakes. If you want this set, you're going to need to pony up your $60 by midnight on October 31st. If you're into this stuff and have the cheddar, man, just make it happen. Get the thing at thirdmanrecords.com. Since I know a bunch of people who listen to this show go to Arts, Beats, and Eats, here's your lineup of top artists from yesteryear that are coming to downtown Royal Oak. You've got the All-American Rejects, Third Eye Blind, Theory of a Dead Man, Night Ranger, 2012 American Idol Philip Phillips, and country artist Randy Houser. Of course, it wouldn't be a Metro Detroit thing without including some Motown, so there's the 4 tops. And of course, the cover act, Beatlemania Live. Because, well, the Beatles will never die, man. There's arts and food at this thing, too, to check out. And they're renaming Washington Avenue in honor of recently deceased Oakland County Executive Al Brooks Patterson for the 3-day festival. He apparently was a big supporter of this event. Arts, Beats, and Eats is over Labor Day weekend, August 30th through September 2nd, and admission ranges between $3 and $7 depending on when you get there during the day. Tickets for food and drink are extra. This is a podcast, so I'm not going to go through the whole schedule, so go check it out at artsbeatseats.com. Marygrove College in Detroit is in its final semester, but the campus on McNichols in Detroit is going to see a new chapter as an education center. To learn more, I caught up with Sister Mary Jane Herb of the Marygrove Conservancy. So one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you was there's been a lot of news around Marygrove College and the college itself closing, but I think it's important to tell people that there's a new chapter. So before we get to that, kind of how this happened, how did the college get to being now the land and control of the Conservancy, correct? To steward it going forward.
Yes. Well, first of all, the IHM community has had Marygrove College, sponsored Marygrove College for over 90 years in the city of Detroit. And recently, Marygrove College faced what many small private urban schools face in the future in terms of low enrollment, some financial challenges, and so on. So a couple of years ago, we made the decision to close the undergraduate program at Marygrove and focus on the graduate-only institution. And the graduate-only institution would also offer professional development. Unfortunately, that faced some challenges as well. So in the midst of that, really, as the undergraduate program was closing, we were approached by the Kresge Foundation together with Detroit Public Schools and U of M and Starfish. And with the Kresge Foundation, we were able to establish a separate 501c3 called the Marygrove Conservancy. The college then, facing the financial challenges, felt that they could transfer the buildings and grounds to the Conservancy, then that would help them financially, and really tried to make a go of the graduate-only program.
So what exactly is going in there? I've seen some of the reports around a school. You mentioned the Detroit Public Schools. It feels like there is kind of like a big community hug coming around all of these properties, and it's kind of good to see.
That's a great way to explain that. First of all, when we go back to the establishment of the Conservancy, Conservancy was established primarily for the purpose of education in the city of Detroit. Very simply, that's what we wanted. So it became what we call a P to 20, Cradle to Career campus. And then the partners entered in. So Detroit Public Schools expressed an interest, as well as the University of Michigan, and then Starfish with the Early Childhood Center. And Kresge was an important partner in opening those doors to those entities. So University of Michigan came in and wanted to establish what's called a residency model. Just as the medical profession has a residency model where doctors learn on the job, they wanted the Detroit Public School teachers to continue learning on the job. So University of Michigan is working with the Detroit Public School to establish curriculum, to train the teachers, to really get that up and running. And Starfish, and again, through the generosity of Kresge Foundation, we're building a new entity, a new building on campus. And the idea is, let's focus on the education of youth. That's our primary focus. Now, down the road, we're looking at other entities possibly coming on campus, auxiliary services for the students. So we really want to focus on, again, education in the city of Detroit, but also the neighborhood. How can we be a very strong presence in that neighborhood? Campus is beautiful. We want it to come alive again for the neighbors.
It really is a beautiful campus. How has Marygrove worked with the neighborhood? Like, how important is Marygrove and that connection to that surrounding area? Because it is not an area in the middle of downtown. So it's not an area that I think a lot of people in the media conversation think about, because so much of it gets focused on the 7.2.
Correct. And I think one of the things that we've done is really listen to the neighbors. So there's the DCDC, which I believe is Detroit Collaborative Development Corporation. I'm not quite sure the acronym there, but they're very involved in the community. So they're out having community meetings. The Live 6 folks are getting together. Although I haven't been as involved in that, we're listening to the neighbors. We want the presence of the neighbors to come in. We want this to be a campus that can be used by the neighborhood. A few weeks ago, we had a community picnic on campus, and there were booths set up for children. They learned about public school. They learned about all the entities there. And the Detroit Public School has made it a priority to accept students from the immediate neighborhood. So once we get up and rolling, we'll begin to ask the neighbors, what other services can we provide for you on this campus?
Let's talk about that Detroit Public School for a little bit. I understand it's a specialty school. Can you kind of outline what's going on there?
Well, I'm not as familiar, obviously, as the employees from the public school would be, but it's a application school, so like Cass Tech and others. So students had to apply to the high school to be in the ninth grade class in the high school. They're looking at a social justice curriculum and also focused on engineering. And even naming the school was the school at Marygrove. So the presence of Marygrove was very important. I believe that the school wants to focus on project-based learning, where students work together on different projects, preparing them with the skills they need for the future.
That's great. And thanks for the thumbnail. And then Starfish, for folks who aren't familiar?
Starfish has a grant from the Head Start Corporation. So they're really trying to bring in students, again, from the neighborhood, serve the students who may not have the opportunity for preschool education. We're starting out with some classrooms on the campus for next year because we received a Head Start grant. Starfish has received that grant. So they'll start off with that. And they also, I know, have programs for families, like programs for fathers, for mothers. So they really try to bring in the whole family in terms of the education of their children.
So I want to kind of zoom up a little bit to a more big picture level. One of the things, if listeners to Daily Detroit know, we had Pastor Jonathan Merritt from Straightgate. We've had other folks from different denominations in the studio. And one of the reasons is that I personally believe, and as a longtime resident of the city, the religious community in many ways makes huge impacts in the city. And they're a group that never left. They never stopped working, even before we had New York Times, profiles on the food in Corktown and all that kind of stuff. From a bigger perspective, I would almost ask spiritual perspective, why is it so important to do this work in Detroit?
Well, our community has been based in the city of Detroit, had a commitment to the city of Detroit for many years. In fact, when many of the parish schools were flourishing in the city of Detroit, our community staffed a number of those schools. We believe in serving the people of the city. We want to give them the opportunity of education that is a quality education and meets their needs. So that religious presence and the values of our community are going to come alive on the campus. For instance, sustainability. We've made a commitment to sustainability, to care for Earth. We hope to bring that onto the campus. And we want to bring those values, the peace and justice curriculum. We want to help influence that. So we want a presence in there, bringing our values to the people of the city of Detroit.
As with many projects in this city, foundations also have a large impact. I understand the Kresge Foundation was really a key partner to make all this happen. How'd that come together, and what are they doing in all of this?
Absolutely. It was interesting that Dr. Beth Burns, who's the president of Marygrove, approached the Kresge Foundation, and that really started the wheels going about how Kresge could be involved in two of their values, and they have many values, are the city of Detroit and education. And Kresge saw that coming alive. That's when they approached the congregation about how can we make this happen in establishing the Conservancy. So not only did they make that commitment and that connection, but pledged $50 million to the startup of this entity. So the funding of the Conservancy right now is a grant from Kresge. We hope to get other partners into that. They're going to be involved in the building of the new preschool. So Kresge's been a very important partner. And again, shared values with the congregation, with the college, and with the new partners.
That's great. If people want to get involved in this, if they want to do something, if they're interested, because you said there's also additional spaces that you're looking at down the line, what do people need to do to get in touch?
There's a website, MarygroveConservancy.org, and that would be one place to go. Beanstalk Real Estate Solutions is managing the property for us, and they certainly can get involved with Beanstalk, and they would. Beanstalk vets the applications for the campus and sees what's viable.
Well, it is one of the most beautiful corners of Detroit. Sister Mary, thank you so much for stopping by Daily Detroit. I appreciate you.
Great. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Detroit City FC's initial foray into professional soccer has hit a bit of a speed bump. The club was supposed to be gearing up for something called the NPSL Founders Cup, a new fall league featuring 11 teams spread all across the country. Then, a couple weeks ago, came word that the competition is being relaunched as the NPSL Members Cup, and the number of teams has shrunk to just 6. So joining us to talk about that and explain what's happened is Fletcher Sharpe, our soccer correspondent. Fletcher, what happened to the NPSL Founders Cup? It's now called the Members Cup.
So currently, there are more teams that dropped out of this tournament than there are that actually are still in the tournament. The NPSL Founders Cup was started out by Detroit City FC, ASC San Diego, Cal FC, California United Strikers FC, Oakland Roots SC, who I personally was excited to see because they were an organic team made just for Founders Cup, and they had a bunch of really great jerseys. Portland Trailblazers basketball player Damian Lillard was actually wearing their stuff during the NBA playoffs. FC Arizona, Miami FC, the reigning champion, two-time reigning champion Miami FC, first time it's ever happened, and Miami United FC. All those teams dropped out randomly. Currently, the only 4 teams who originally were in the tournament that are still there are Detroit, Chattanooga, Milwaukee Torrent, which is still baffling to me, and New York Cosmos. And to make up for it, they added Michigan Stars, also very baffling, from the NPSL regular season to join, and Napa Valley 1839 FC, who decided to still stay in the tournament, which is a little odd because every other team, furthest west team besides them is Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So Napa Valley will be traveling very far every game, which makes me believe that they really are committed to making a professional team.
Right.
Because otherwise, if you're trying to drive that distance, that's nuts.
Why did all these teams drop out?
Different reasons. Originally, for the Founders Cup, Members Cup, there was a league called NISA, Northern Independent Soccer Association, helped by Peter Wilt, who was like the brainchild of like most of lower league soccer, and another guy. Peter became an owner or someone who helped run Forward Milwaukee, which is one of these USL championship teams. And Forward Milwaukee is like really great. They have a lot of really great things going for them. Great fans, great jerseys, some players. Maybe not the best record, but like they're trying. That's good. And the other guy died. So NISA kind of slowed down. So a lot of teams are thinking about joining NISA or like we need to do something. And that's kind of when the quote, hell yeah, MPSL Pro became a thing. It's kind of was like a meme. I forgot who first said it, but like I know Sean Mann of Detroit City said it. Chattanooga's owners have said it. Almost anyone when they're talking about Founders Cup talked about MPSL Pro because that was the next step from that is to make it full-time summer league. But then some new owners of NISA kind of picked it back up and we're like, hey, we're going to like really put some fire underneath this because it had been dormant for like most of the summer. So when they started to do that, Miami FC left for that. ASC San Diego left for that. FC Arizona left. Oakland Roots left for that. I don't know why Cal United Strikers left. So they needed someone to fill in. I'm assuming Milwaukee Torrent is just going to carry from they're using players from other MPSL teams. I know they grabbed a few players from Duluth FC to kind of fill out their professional roster. I made air quotes if you could see that. Michigan Stars, people don't realize about them. They have a very, very rich investor, which also makes me wonder why they're not that much better during the regular season. I do know they have the ability to grab star players as their goalie for this season. Tatenda Makruva was actually a Liberian international player. He actually played in the African Cup of Nations. He played against Sadio Mane of Liverpool in Senegal.
Yeah.
So he's a very talented player. I don't know how he ended up in Michigan or in Pontiac, but now I'm guessing, leading to believe there's money involved, which, hey, good for him. I know the Stars pay their players. New York Cosmos are going to stay because they wanted this league. But I feel like New York, Chattanooga, and Detroit will probably join NISA next year if I'm going to bet on something.
Yeah.
Because they were all three clubs very much heavily involved in the formation of NISA. And they left when there was no movement. So now that NISA is being shown to be something, Detroit City FC had just had a friendly last night against Windsor Toronto FC. They have a friendly coming up against Indy 11 of the USL Championship. They also have a friendly coming up soon at the Philadelphia Fury, one of the new NISA teams. And it's being pushed very heavily by NISA. Philadelphia Fury is going to travel against Detroit City FC to play a big friendly, which is kind of weird seeing as Detroit City FC is not in their league, which lets people believe Detroit City FC is probably going to leave. They're going to finish out their commitment because they're stand-up people, and then they're going to leave after the end of the season.
Has the club brass, the organization, said anything officially about that?
No, because honestly, it's such a crap show, lower league soccer. It's really, really, being quite frank, it's very disappointing. There are 3 lower leagues with a bunch of very historic and great teams, and all 3 leagues can't get along because all 3 leagues are owned by different systems. The MPSL is owned by the owners. The UPSL, which is similar but more teams, is owned by a private company, and it'd be logical just to combine the leagues. That way you can just kind of get everyone playing together on the same level. Same with the USL League 2, but that's owned more by the people who own MLS. So it's just 3 different leagues, very similar in the goal they want, very similar in how most of their great teams are, very similar in how most of their bad teams are, but they just can't come together to reunite and make one big league. So until something like that happens, you can't really say too much about what you want to do, because if you show your cards one way or the other and you don't go through with it, it kind of messes with your fan base. And a fan base as big as Detroit City's, that would be not so great. Fletcher
Sharpe covers Detroit City FC. He's also co-host of the Outer Drive podcast. Fletcher, thanks so much as always.
Thanks for having me.
Before I let you go, the Royal Oak Main Art Theater is hosting a cat film festival next month. There's everything from short clips to documentaries, so I'm sure you'll find the perfect thing to check out. According to the organizers, cats have been the invisible part of the human-animal bond, and it's time to shine the spotlight on these magnificent creatures and the humans devoted to them. The festival is on the evening of September 10th. Tickets start at $7.50. Proceeds in part go to benefit the Ferndale Cat Shelter. There's more about this at catfilmfestival.com. And fam, don't tell Sven. I'll probably buy him some tickets for his birthday. All right, that'll do it for today's Daily Detroit. If you like the show, consider telling somebody. The more people who listen, the more we can do and the more we can push Detroit's conversation forward. For Sven, Fletcher, Cheyenne, and Randy behind the scenes, I'm Jer Stays. Take care of each other, and I'll see you tomorrow around Detroit.
You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.